Sorry, no kitty today. I had a cat earlier on camera for the other game stream, but not for the Lotra stream. For not for I don't know where kitty is. No floof. Yeah. Hello everyone. Welcome to Fridays at 4 on twitch.tv/DDO stream. I'm your community manager, Cordovan. I'll be with you for the next hour. We got a little bit of news, some stuff maybe happening on Lamania next week. I'll have a little bit of information about that and news of the week. And then we're going to run the new quests because we've got a series that have been released in recent weeks, and I'm just here to check them out. I've got a legendary character on Kyber I think I'm going to be playing, working to cap that character out through their last level and pick up some good legendary loot while we're at it. And this is a weekend to try to go for some loot, I think. My kitty is sad because there's no real hardcore this year. Sorry. I don't think my cat would care, though. My cat does care, like the little birds that show up and sometimes the butterflies on the screen. But hardcore, I don't think the cat cares. I'm sorry. We need more humor in quests. Well, I think we do pretty good in that regard in Dungeons and Dragons Online. Occasionally, we've even been dinged from being a little too silly. So occasionally, I think we do okay on the humor department here. So, all right, let's get to a little bit of news. Once I actually get my correct screen up, here we go. Main thing I want to mention is something that hit Lamania this week. This is going to be going live most likely with the next game update in some form based on feedback that we received this week from Lamania. Torque took the lead on this one. Sealstar, as I understand, also assisted some, but this was largely a Torque effort to deal with some meta balance as it comes to range, particularly Inquisitive. So, here's what we have in the works. With update 73.4, aka the next patch, which includes some balance changes to the ranged meta and more. And then there's a bunch of feedback, as you can see. Generally, supportive, I think, of the effort with some criticism and suggestions and what have you. But here's what we're doing. So for the ranged meta balance that hit Lamania this week, this is what we went live with this week. Attack speed modifiers will no longer function for Inquisitive crossbow styles when using No Holds Barred or Endless Fusillade. A typical legendary character displaying a 50% attack speed modifier in the Stats Plus page after this pass, going from a bolt firing every quarter of a second to a bolt firing every 0.3 of a second, will now match how these skills operate for other crossbow styles, like repeating crossbows. It's about a 20% adjustment in attack speed for people in that scenario. Heroic characters with less will have less. A fire rate of 0.3 seconds for a projectile is a bit of a floor at this point due to issues that happen when attack speed gets too fast, since the engine starts to reach its limit. Your fire rate outside of when No Holds Barred and Endless Fusillade are active is unaffected. These changes also do touch the animation scripts, where we had to do some work, because you can shorten an animation. Let's say the animation is doing this, right? Just like a basic motion of some kind of reload thing, let's just say. You can make it much faster before it itself causes problems, because the speed at which you're increasing the animation starts to put a tax on things. So basically what we redid is we redid some of the animations to address this issue. Precise Shot now grants all bows, long and short, a 50% stat mod adjustment, like two-handed weapons. Bows will hit harder per projectile and be a bit like the two-handers of the ranged meta. It's a passive function and doesn't care what you got on in terms of toggles. We're also reorganizing all the cosmetic feats as part of this. It's related. And so what that means is all those kind of hardcore toggle feats and footprints and what have you are going to get their own tab finally in the cosmetic UI. And the stuff you get from hardcore is going to persist through reincarnations. You won't need to get it every time either. And then finally, this is coming in with update 73.4 to some extent, but this is really Torque's latest on some of the stealth changes and AI behaviors. So, monster and henchman AI adjustments are being made to some expensive behaviors here with update 73.4. Monsters, when feared, will now only go up to 15 meters away from the player and will, in general, behave in a much more panicking in place method. So then there was a note for Lamania this week. Monsters who would flee when perched will also panic in place more instead of trying to find a location that's too far away. This really applies what happens when a fear spell or a character ability is used and content typically makes monsters run away. It's part of the overall performance improvements that we're working to make. This isn't just a lag thing, though. It's also an efficiency thing, and it is a cascading fix that'll impact a whole bunch of things. We're also making some changes with Teal, Darling, and Rana to correct some expensive behaviors during situations where they couldn't reach their owner. This includes swimming, ledge jumping, teleporting, hitting a bad, what's called a path map. That means I need to go a place and I can't. And that's all coming here with update 73.4, which roughly set for not next week, but perhaps the week after is the latest on that. So, however, the other big piece of news is that we are working early next week. We're putting the final touches on it, and assuming everything comes together, we intend to open Lamania for a preview of our pre-purchase of the Lamortia expansion next week. This is not likely to include the landscapes or the quests, so in some ways this will be a bit of a test dojo preview. But it's similar perhaps to what you've seen in other previews like this. So if everything comes together, we'll have more information first thing really Tuesday on our plans for Lamania next week. And I'm also putting the final touches before I leave the office today to see if we're intending to do a content creator preview. I know there's been some discussions on that. I don't know how this holiday and sort of the timing of everything, whether that's possible at this point. But if it is possible, there's also a chance we may open, say, Tuesday evening to content creators and then Wednesday for the general public. It may just be Wednesday that we're able to open up Lamania to the general public. Regardless, next week, first thing is really on the agenda to sort through that and get that done. You may wonder why I'm saying Tuesday. For those of you not in the United States, this Monday is a big holiday in the United States called Memorial Day, so we all basically have Monday off. But really, one of the big bullet points for next week is our pre-purchase preview for Lamania. Probably going to be Wednesday, would be my guess. And then if we can do a content creator preview on Tuesday evening, we intend to do that. And then we'll continue with Lamanias then through June, as we get ready to say a whole heck of a lot more about our Lamortia expansion. Things that I cannot say today. We are also hard at work, and this is another big task for next week, related to our 64-bit server transfers. Work is underway to test out the transfer tech that has been put in place to date, some new transfer tech that's going to be coming. And so far, so good on testing, and so far, so good on getting the 64-bit servers ready to open. So we could have some information fairly soon, not next week, I'm going to say, but perhaps fairly soon, about the timing of our 64-bit game worlds as well. And I know on our plate for next week is to really put together a lot of the text that we'll be eventually distributing to you related to transfers, how it's going to work, what do you need to do, what all comes over, what doesn't come over, what, what do you need to know? We're also probably going to have the server names and some other things there as well. So should be pretty exciting, and that's an internal task for next week. That'll be public sometime after that work gets done, when we're ready to publicly announce the 64-bit worlds. But things are coming together quite well, I should state, as we head into the longer holiday weekend here with our 64-bit servers and transfer technology here in DDO. All right. What other news do I have before I get in game? We'll take a look at chat here as well. I would mention that starting June 1st, our first of year 2 of the VIP Loyalty Reward Program becomes eligible to acquire. This will be for people who have been VIP with us all the way starting May of last year. With the 13th month here, starting June 1st, they'll be able to pick up the 500 DDO store points. And there is an article we have up on DDO.com about the VIP Loyalty Reward Program Year 2, if you are interested. The final bit is really bonuses and sales. And that is, we have a cool thing happening with sales. Double bonus points plus is running through June 1st. That, besides double bonus points, also gets you a flavor of an Elixir of Discovery based on the points package you purchase. And that's through June 1st. Additionally, then we have a weekend bonus, which is relevant to me getting loot. Because not only do we have a plus 5% extra VIP XP weekend through Monday because of the holiday, so through Monday, shutting off Tuesday AM, but we also have a plus 5 Treasure Hunter boost. So, Treasure Hunter boost and Elixirs of Discovery and new quests with new loot. Sounds like a good weekend to me. So, that's what we got going on here. All right, I think that is it with the news. Let me go and take a look at chat quick, see what I maybe have to talk about. You hate the quest like Fred State. You disagree on the fun quests. Well, I mean, that is really goes to the point that we need to please a wide audience and need to do both, and keep the silly to some extent, to not all the time. Treat it occasional thing. You notice a new record on my shelf. Grats on good taste in music. Why, thank you. I am, in fact, a gigantic fan of that album. So, Allo Gallo, or Hello Gallo, or however you say it, is maybe my favorite prog track, period. What if a bunch of dragons were polymorphed into kobolds? Oh yeah, right. Okay. Get rid of Inquisitor and the Vistani Night Fighter, and there will be no meta left. Well, gosh, I hope not. One, I think, and you can take a look at the thread yourself and offer your own feedback, and I think it's too late for Lamania this week, but next week, see it yourself and kind of get a sense of where that falls on your care palette. But in general, we do have it's careful feedback. It's possible in some ways that we haven't gone far enough, to be honest. But I think that we certainly have a pretty good... I think we're in a good place, and I'd be curious to know what your feedback is about this. I think I would also push back just gently on this idea that if we got rid of Inquisitor and Vistani Knife Fighter, the meta would be dead. I think if there is one thing that these years of Dungeons & Dragons Online have taught us, it's that the meta will change.
You hear a commotion up ahead.
And regardless of what we want to do or try to do, things are gonna happen, and people will find, with the complexity of our game and the ability of us to have as much choice as we have in DDO, that the meta may shift, but you know, people would have said that about the Batman build back in 2009, that was an untouchable meta. And, turns out, nope. So just saying. You're generally better not being too absolutist about the meta, because it can and will change. Also, I don't think we're nerfing them hard enough to change the meta like that. But what do I know? I'm just the community manager. Typically, we are unlikely to provide granular information about drop rates or treasure tables. I know occasionally people want us to do that, but that's not really the kind of way we operate, so. Oops. This is the races you want to see added in order. Okay, Dampier, good. Glad that one's first, because we are. Alright, Iconic Vrilyoka. Warforged Racial Variant. Scout. This is the racial variant. That's pretty cool. I could see us doing a Warforged Scout at some point. Seems plausible. And then you want Iconic Battle Rager Dwarf. That certainly is a name that comes up on the regular in terms of community desire for work we might do in the future. Like sort of a battle hammer wielding dwarf or whatever it might be. Would be pretty sweet. So I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't happen someday. And then Githyanki, which I would also not be surprised if we saw the Githyanki someday. But how that gets implemented is, I think, going to be a moderate project. So I don't think you will be seeing Dampier next week. I don't think. Scout Warforged for 3 days short of forever. Yeah, I mean, it's a natural fit, honestly. A Warforged Scout would be a fantastic addition. It would make perfect sense. It's cool, so. For sure. Someone is saying they would like beards for female dwarf folk as well, and, you know, we do have that on the Lord of the Rings online side, so never say never on that. I think that a wider scale Avatar project is something that at some point we could do, but as we've done elements of that on the Lord of the Rings online side, I think, you know, it's a good recognition of, oh, you think that's going to be a small project, huh? Nope. That's a biggie. So, that'll be a lot. But maybe someday. I have to admit, I don't really know what the Vrilyoka is. It's not one that I am particularly familiar with. Okie dokie. Problem solved. So, what does the treasure elixir do? Ultimately, there are loot tables in the game, right? And it gets very complex very quickly. Because you'll have tables on tables, and, you know, on this table will allow you to roll on this table, and things like that. And the way that typically works is really a random die roll. Typically 1 to 100, or something along that nature. And so the way it'll work is a +5 treasure hunter boost will be +5 to that roll. And then any other bonuses you have in that channel will also apply on top of it as well. So if you hit an end chest and it rolls 80, you'll get an 85. As to what exactly that means, it's really going to depend on to what the table is and what the quest is and all the rest. But as a general marketing term, it's accurate to say that it gives you a better chance for better loot. But in practice, that +5 is +5 better on the roll. So whether that's just a little bit better loot, better item, chance to hit the name table, roll on the name table, it's set.
The Sahuagin are guarding something here. They try to stare you down. Weapons ready. The Sahuagin usher you in.
No, I don't have news about purchasing the Ravenloft Ultimate Edition. I know that it's been a topic of conversation for some amount of time in the community, and it's on we've been talking about it too, but I don't think we're yet in a position to make it happen. As soon as we are, though, we will let you know. Do I not have... Okay, let me bring out... Here we go. Hi, Frogo. I thought so. Okay, well, let's see. What is my Intimidate versus Haggle versus Bluff? I don't think any of them are particularly good. Alright, 56, 16, 26. Alright, well, 56, we could try and Intimidate. Okay, great. I might be a little late on listening to the Kobold grievances, but, you know, you can play better than me. I think that actually just opens up that door for me, doesn't it? Yeah. Okie dokie. Where am I headed now? I am headed across the way here. There's always a meta, that's true. I'm not even sure that it's accurate to state that those are the only two metas right now. But perhaps that is not it's often best in terms of CM work to let players tell you what the meta is rather than try to tell them. You know? There we go. You want to center your Great Axe Monk. That would be pretty fun. Yep. Did you miss the Lamortia announcement? Only that we are working to get our first Lamortia pre-purchase preview next week. And so stay tuned early next week when we get back to the office after the Memorial Day holiday. It's really item 1 on the agenda. And assuming everything works out, we should be in a position to open Lamania for that preview on Wednesday. If we can, we intend to also try to do a content creator preview. So speaking of you specifically, Nimvind, I'll be in touch potentially this weekend to let you know if that's happening or not. Or we'll see. We'll see. But that should be next week. Again, though, it won't be Dampier, from what I understand, nor the quests, nor the landscape. This is specifically an early preview of our Lamortia pre-purchase kind of items and things in particular, I think. So I think that's really the main focus of the preview for next week. And yes, we are doing Dampier. That is absolutely, that's been known for a while, but yes, we are doing that. We already have Blade Forged, no thanks. I mean, it is true that we have Blade Forged, and Blade Forged are pretty sweet, but I think a Scout would be a very different gameplay to a Blade Forged. I don't think it would feel the same or play the same. So I think there's still plenty of room for another Warforged archetype or iconic or whatever we ended up doing with it. Races are boring. We need new classes. I mean, we do both. A dwarf iconic specifically would be cool. Yeah, that is something we haven't really done, is it? So that would be a neat thing to check off the list, really. That's an option. Because that is an option we don't currently offer, from what I understand. So that's right. Because now I'm thinking about it, we don't have one, right? There's no dwarf iconic? No. Please no Battle Rager. Not because you don't want one, but it means we would have more Forgotten Realms, which means we have to listen to Elminster. Not necessarily. I mean, how often has Elminster returned since the last time? Maybe you offended him is the problem. He's not even going to talk to you anymore. He doesn't even want to talk to you anymore. He was so rude last time he talked to you. Some Warforged scouts have the same heads as Iron Defenders. That would be a direction. That'd be a direction we could go. Wonder how people would feel about that. I think that sounds kind of cool. I have to admit that that is not one I am particularly familiar with in tabletop. I don't think I know that one at all. Oh. But what does it affect? Named loot, ran, gen, or both? Well, the system about what I describe is really the same table, isn't it? So the answer is, I mean, and it depends on the table too, and it depends on the named loot, depends on the quest, depends on the era. In general, named loot has a consistent drop rate regardless of bonuses to loot in general. But with the Elixir Discovery, my understanding is it does in fact increase that. But that's part of why we don't get so granular with that all the loot tables, is because it gets complex. It depends who the loot dev was at the time and all this other kind of stuff. So, and we've done a lot of work over the years to standardize things. I know Steel Star certainly has, but perhaps when he's next on, if you can ask him and see if he feels like talking more about it. But in general, for the main treasure table, right, it's +5 higher. And if that treasure table is such that rolling X or above puts you on a roll on the named loot table, well, then that happens too. But if, for example, the named loot table is independent of the main chest roll, and it's just, say, straight 5, 10, or whatever it is, X percent, then that's going to stay X percent. Is my understanding. It's complicated. So there are ways to do this quest that involves a lot less fighting. And there are optional things that can happen and all sorts of stuff you can do. But I'm just sort of taking the brute force method, although as you saw, maybe next time I should try to get into a dialogue with the kobolds first and see about really making peace between both sides and see what happens there. And then as players have found in the forums, there's sort of like special stuff as well. So, alright, well, I think we are basically ready here. So, other than not properly listening to the kobold grievances, pretty much did what I intended to do. So.
A group of kobolds guard the entrance here. They seem wary.
And so this is, yeah, here we go.
But they don't attack. The kobolds agree to let you pass.
Well, let's see what I can do, huh? Is there anything left up here? As a dev, can I give myself past lives? No. The way it works is that when I'm on an admin character, that is my official Cordovan character, then I do have the ability to do whatever I need to do on that character. But that's not a character that's ever really played like a regular player would play it. That's specifically used for things like the live stream or in-game events or things like that. When I'm on the character you see on the live stream here, it's straight up regular play character. There are some benefits of being the community manager of Dungeons & Dragons Online, such as I get things unlocked for me, and I am the person. I am one of the people who gets to make points codes. So let's just say I ain't dipping my own personal line of credit for DDO points anytime soon. But other than that, in terms of the mechanics of the account that you're seeing on the live game world here, it's the same as any other account. There's no special thing happening here. A Dark Warforged Scout? That sounds even sweeter. Yeah. A straight up Vampire Universal Enhancement Tree. I don't know how I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we are doing Dhampir, right? So... I'm trying to get through more of the chat here. Any chance of more classic modules happening? For sure. For sure. I would expect that to happen at some point. Easy Intimidate, because I've already wiped the floor with the Sahuagin. There we go. Nice. Now time to go back to the tower, which is the one in this here. You have a grievance with Myth Draenor because of how spread out, really, the quests are on the map. It is definitely a larger size landscape area in terms of that. I think we tend to offer a variety of both landscape size and content. And it's true that Myth Draenor has got a pretty large landscape, but that's because we were heading to that plane, and it made sense to do it that way. Ravenloft as well. Whereas some of the other content we've done, well, I guess Isle Dread too. Although it was a little, well.
Do better next time.
And we do offer teleporting in Myth Draenor as well. So once you've run it, you can zip around. All right. Do I actually have? I do, right? There we go. Nope. I'll take that legendary, though. I could reroll. What do you think, chat? Give me a YN. Yes, no. Should I reroll this loot for you? I have not gotten the heart goggles yet, no. Any word on fixing racial abilities that were broken with the latest expansion and Cannith crafting? I don't know which racial abilities you are talking about that broke with Myth Draenor. Cannith crafting is on our to-do list. I believe I spoke about that on last week's show. And the end result is it'll be a project to update Cannith crafting. That's always been a project meant for after the level bump. I don't know if we're going all the way to 40 before we hit it or what. I would also say that the person who most recently worked on Kenneth Crafting is not currently working for the company. So there's some level of work that's going to need to be involved in terms of tasking and systems work to do an increase on Kenneth Crafting. So that is where that is. Expedition to the Barrier Peaks is a must. That would be sweet. Sweet. Someday maybe, right? We've long talked about how cool that would be. So, I mean, yeah, you got laser guns. All right, well, I see at least one yes on the reroll, so let's do it. Nope. Nope. Oh. Not going to be too useful for this particular character. Well, except for the profane all-rounded. But I'm going to still take my Hound's Blood to be warded against charms, poison, and petrification, and I believe I have a quality con +6 on my ring, and that's where I'm getting my natural armor bonus, so I'll probably keep the Zizzy Fang. But I can stick the legendary icon of the High Tide in the vault for another character, so that works. Well, I prefer what I get. It tends to be my case on most loot. Yeah, they're both good. I liked the Zizzy Fang specifically on this character because I was looking for a place at the time I acquired it to get a natural armor bonus, and then I also like that it's got the blue, green, and yellow augment slots where I've got my deadly equipped, my range power just to help a little bit, and then armored agility 2 in there right now. The acid and evil absorption certainly doesn't hurt. Being immune from charms, poison, petrification, real good, and then the natural armor. Like I say, the only thing I get no benefit from is the quality con +3, and that's because I can't remember. I think is it this one? Yeah. Oh, that's insightful con. Okay. So then I am getting that quality con, I think, +3 from that. So that especially is why the trinket's going to stay on this character. Lag issues fix it. Yes. No. What are you talking about?
A new challenge. For folk, win me strength.
Oh, let me just do a quick shout out to Tavern Tales, who I see in chat, for having an absolutely awesome 100th episode this week on twitch.tv/DDOstream. You can find the archive in the past broadcasts. And it was a heck of a great show. So, DDO Trivia, we had a great time. Awesome questions. I should also let you know, Tavern Tales, that I have spoken to the team. And I was like, you remember that, like, have you ever watched old Jeopardy or whatever? And you see sometimes where the movie stars or whatever ask the question about their own movie. That is what I want to do for your show. So at some point here, we're going to get a list of questions, and I'm actually going to have the devs record some segments and things of them asking it. And we're gonna give you some material to help out, because you have to put in a ton of work every week to get all that question list and everything done. I mean, if anyone thinks that's easy to come up with that many questions every week and do the audio, video, and things, and you do such a good job. So, but we're gonna help you out here as soon as I can make people do it. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun, I think.
The door is secured with a green lock. Surely there must be a way to open it nearby.
I have not heard of plans for an iconic completionist feat. I mean, it's certainly been a long-standing request and controversial topic. There are people who are like, no on that. But there are also plenty of people who are like, yes on that. So, never say never. Tomb of Annihilation, that would be another good one. We've talked about this. I want the Desert of Desolation series. That is a personal favorite of moi.
This page is covered with dense, illegible scrolls. From what you can make out,
It would basically be I mean, the big problem with Desert of Desolation is we have Wiz King. And it's not the same, but at the same time, it shares thematic elements, and we have pretty successfully covered, I think, that sort of pyramid-style quest. That said, it ain't Pharaoh. It ain't Lost Tomb of Martek. Or, Desert of Desolation, so we need that. We need that. I want full-on airship. I want full-on sand airship combat against giganto purple worms. Give it to me now. Drums on Fire Mountain would be your number 2 choice. I have to admit, I don't really think I know that one. We are always working on game performance, and one of the biggest things we're doing related to game performance is the release of these 64-bit game worlds soon. And that also has been a lot of work, not just getting the new transfer technology going on the DDO side, but remember these same engineers have just largely gone through the process on the Lord of the Rings Online side, where we are just opened our last 64-bit game world 2 days ago. So we're very busy working on a lot of aspects related to game performance, new servers and what have you. But it's a complex subject, and no one fix will ever solve lag. And there's many sources of it. But if you've been playing on Cormyr, you may see that we have a pretty improved experience there. And that'll be coming to everyone who chooses to take advantage of it here soon. We'll have a lot more information about our 64-bit server transfers. And what we found on the Lord of the Rings Online side as well is that the work that this does to bring in these game worlds also has the impact of showing you a lot about sort of what you have and what you have left to do. You know, Tolero has discussed this as well, how you can have kind of a jar of differently colored marbles, right? And it's harder to see those marbles when the jar is full of white marbles. But as you take the white marbles away, you start to be able to see the black marbles in the jar. And maybe that's a little overly simplistic, but I think in general it's a decent enough comparison to what I'm trying to say here. So we've done work. We've done a huge amount of work. We're on the cusp of doing a whole bunch more, and then once that's done, we'll do more. So. You want Humblewood and DDO, okay. Any updates to the Commodore 64 version of Didio? I have not seen that version in action. I would love to do that. Are you using basically the Adventure Construction set as its base game engine? And creating your own text inputs, doing your own 3D flat panel graphics? Get it working on that nice green chroma monitor? So transfer is probably in the next month. Too early to say. Maybe. It's a possibility. It's also possible that might not happen. So, too early to say. But we're on track. And we'll have more to say soon. Spears being added would make sense. Yeah, spears would be sweet. Do spears and pole arms. Finally get that done. That would be rad. That'd be really good.
Wonder what fine treasures wait inside.
The green door has been opened. You can now proceed further into the vermin-infested sewers.
So, it's our expectation that astral shards will transfer. They don't currently, but it's our expectation that they probably will. And once we have information on character transfers under the new transfer technology system, we'll make sure to let you know. But as with anything transfer related, I have learned very quickly now that people will read a lot into what I say, and so I better say nothing. Okay.
What are you doing? You alert our enemies!
Oops. No, our publisher is Daybreak Games, Deathsia, and that's been the case for a long time now.
You found another locked door. This one sports a purple lock.
A Voodoo Spice sentient gem? I bet Voodoo Spice would make for an excellent sentient gem. Oh, it would be an amazing Voodoo Spice sentient gem. would be one that gives you raid tips when you're inside of a raid. There's the Voodoo Spice Sentient Gem. We have a couple of sentient jewels that are in our pocket that have been developed to various extents of late. We got a couple that have been around for a little while. One that's been around for a while, one we're working on. Some other things. So we're definitely not done with sentient gems. But I don't really have anything to announce right now on it. None of them are ready yet, I can tell you that much, but... Having some kind of player-created sentient jewel contest, like, in theory it's a fun idea. I think in practice, and having gone through user-generated content contests under Warner Brothers back in the day, they are a ton of work and difficult to pull off successfully. You have all sorts of international trade laws and things that come into it, and you have to figure out what kind of monetary value it is, and if you don't think it has monetary value, that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't, and all these other kinds of things associated with this sort of work. And then you got to deal with legal contracts with all the winners, and it's a lot, right? So to date, like, it's one of those things that's like sounds fun in theory, but in practice less so. And then you would also have to deal with the actual audio recording process. Except for the one I did during that one time, they're all professionally recording, done in recording studios. So either it's a professional voice actor doing their own home studio, but it all goes through a professional recording studio. So, you know, then what are we doing there? How do you make that happen? I'll be wrapping up here in just a minute or two. I'm just gonna finish the quest, I think, before I call it. I mean, I do like the idea of it would be fun. I mean, ultimately, I think the real solution is to have some kind of way where you can just drop in your own audio files on a sentient gem somewhere in the install folder or something, and then that's how that's done. It's probably best done through some kind of hacky way that players figure out, as much as anything.
The purple door grinds open.
Just swap the file at your local game folder or something.
Opened a way to the surface.
A DM mode. Use your engine to make custom dungeons that players can play, and top voted get officially added to the game. Yeah, that's one of those big picture concepts that has been kicking around for, well, since about 2006 or so. It would be a big project. When we say our dungeons are handcrafted, we really do mean it. And so what that would mean is not that it's impossible, but that the scope of such a project would be absolutely enormous. So. And functionally, you would essentially be creating a whole new video game method. Because the way that we do things isn't really that modular. If you've actually seen Nobob's Dungeon, you'll know that there are pieces of it that do resemble fairly modular building, particularly when it comes to laying down deco. Things like walls and halls and rooms and what have you. There is some element of sort of drag and drop style interface to that. You're calling up the entity and then placing it, but there's also a lot that trying to have all that be automated for some kind of player-created effort would be just an absolutely questionable task. So instead, I think you'd probably be creating a dungeon building system is essentially what that task would be. And that is a tricky one, so... Yes, the Kitty Dungeon, the Cat Dragon Catastrophe, that was based on a community vote for PAX East 3 years ago now. So 3 PAX Easts ago. We did both community and PAX East votes for various elements that then the panel would pitch a dungeon on, and then the winning panel would get made. And ultimately, Catastrophe is the one that we went for as a free dungeon. Nobob, the developer who made it, did a series available on our YouTube channel and on Twitch here, called The Joy of Devon, where you go through the process of actually seeing the dungeon get made, and then it got released, whenever it got released. When was that now? That was this past 2 years ago, right? A year ago, December, something like that? Well, let's do this again. Ooh, well. Yeah. That I could always use that. Good enough. That is Fridays at 4 on twitch.tv/DDOstream. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back next Friday with more. I may have some vacationing going on over the summer, but not too bad. Do have an extended weekend looking myself. I've got Monday off, so if that's you as well, hope you have a great holiday weekend. Drive safe, be safe. Enjoy DDO, enjoy that loot boost and VIP XP boost, and I'll see you next Friday. Have fun.